Namaste and welcome to Urban.chatterati. This is Abhinav Prakash. And today I'm joined by Comrade Alexei Arora to discuss the debacle in Afghanistan and whether this is the end of the Western liberal order and the cult of liberalism. So, Comrade Arora, welcome to the show.
Lal Salam and Jai Shri Ram to all my Indian comrades. And thanks for having me again. Abhinav, it's been a long time, but very excited to be back.
Thank you, and Jai Shri Ram to you. So, Alexei, when we talk about Afghanistan, the world has seen how hollow, how weak the commitment of the Western liberal democracy is to the causes they pledge to stand by and they preach all around the world. What do you think has happened in Afghanistan? What it has shown us? And do you think that's the end of the road for the Western liberal democracy?
Yeah, so I think this was, in a sense, a very, very negative shock to America's image. And a lot of people are pissed at America, even America's own liberal democratic allies in the European Union and so on, especially Britain. They recalled the parliament for a debate on how we can criticize Joe Biden. And it was funny because it was just, amazing levels of coping by the British to make up for the fact that they don't have an empire anymore. It's like, we're still important. We're criticizing Joe Biden. But nonetheless, it was stupid. But what it basically behind the facades of liberalism and promoting democracy and so on, I think it was, when we have to realize that the Afghanistan war was unwinnable from day one. It was first and foremost a profit-making racket for the defense industry and the CIA for controlling the drug. There's nothing more than that. The US was very unclear in its aims, and I'm going to cite this wonderful, some passages from this wonderful book called The Afghan Papers 2019 by Craig Fitlock. And it's based on the Afghanistan papers that were released in 2019 to the US Congress, which declassified and showed how the American governments, maybe George Bush, Obama, or even Trump, were lying to Americans from day one when the war started. So, it was, to summarize it, mostly the Americans had no idea why they were going into Afghanistan. They did not know whether it was to promote, human rights or liberal democracy or so on. But the people who were bankrolling the American government, which was the defense corporations, which was, the CIA and so on, they had a very clear idea what they wanted, which was to continue to push for higher defense budget so they can make more money, and to continue and control the opium production and the drug trade, which was the department handled by CIA. So that's basically what it was. So whether this is a failure of liberal democracy, yes, in my sense it is, because it it shows that the America cannot stay true to its commitments, to its defense of its very ideals. And, wokeness and so on is already alienating a lot of America's own liberal democratic allies, be it France and so on. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But the American, unipolar moment is beginning to come to an end.
But no, what does it tell us about liberalism? So they tried to impose liberal values on Afghanistan. They were having gender studies department in Afghanistan University and so on. They wanted to reshape the Afghan society in the image of the Anglo-Saxon Western society. And liberalism is basically an ideology, a construct, a worldview, which is, basically local to the Anglo-Saxon society and at the best divider Western world. But certainly it's not a universal value. But somehow we think, and we have been told for decades that, you are not liberal enough. There's no liberalism in India and so on. So what does it tell us about liberalism?
So, see, liberalism is, the basis of liberal philosophy is the promotion of individualism and autonomy for individuals. It is every individual is the master of its own destiny. Now, this may sound good on paper to some people, especially coming from Indian society where we have strict parents. Being able to have the ability to, shape your own destiny sounds very good on paper for liberalism. But there is definitely, darker sides to everything, because every ideology taken to its natural extreme just sounds absurdly stupid. And this is what's happening with liberalism. It is being taken to its extreme, with wokeism, and that everyone should have the opportunity to, choose their own consumer identity, choose their own gender, and then kids should have the opportunity to, change their gender even though they cannot consent to it. They're not 18, they do not have the mental capacity. So now bringing it towards Afghanistan. Afghanistan is it's not the most industrialized society, not the most developed country, and it's a very, very backward country. I don't mean it in a derogatory way. It is just what it is. It's not developed, and the cultures that exist there are very pre-modern. They have not been associated with either capitalism. They have not been associated with modern ideologies. So they're very, very tribal, clan-knit communities and so on. So we have to understand, first of all, why liberalism arose. Now, liberalism arose in the West during the time of the Industrial Revolution, when peasants were no longer attached to their lords and their farmlands, and they could go to industrial cities like Manchester in England or London to work in factories for 12 to 15 hours a day, and even women began working and so on. So liberalism was to give them a moral cover for saying everyone has the freedom to do everything. And even during the feudal times when kings were very strong, the merchant class, the bourgeoisie, was very severely controlled. Now this gave the bourgeoisie the freedom to become industrialists, the freedom to exploit workers. So in that sense, this is the context of how liberalism emerged. It emerged during the phase of industrialization. So to, base this ideology on Afghanistan, which does not have any industry apart from, producing opium and drugs, is going to end in disaster from day one itself. And, you look at US aid, which is the aid agency of the United States, which is also responsible for lots of coups and color revolutions in Venezuela, Cuba, and all the left-wing Latin American countries. Now, this organization, USAID, was promoting, this gender ideology, gender studies in Kabul University of American University of Kabul, and it was going around villages talking to them about equality of women and so on. And obviously everyone was, it was horrendous for them. So, obviously I personally believe that women are equal to men, but that is not the situation in the case of Afghanistan, because liberalism as a value comes when you have industrial development. If you not have industrial development, putting liberalism onto people is in fact an imperial colonial ideology. And so, it was not going to work. And, it's very foolish to think that it would have worked because had America been, trying to develop Afghanistan, things could have been different, but that was not their main purpose. Their main purpose was to profit from a never-ending war, because the American ideology is the ideology of managerial capitalism, which is, I saw this interview, I think it was 2010 or something, from Goldman Sachs. It was one guy who was saying it is more profitable to treat a condition continuously than to permanently cure it. Now, if you apply that, towards the Afghanistan war, is it more profitable to eliminate Taliban, or is it more profitable for them to, exist so that it can justify higher military budgets for Pentagon and, so on. So if you look at, for example, defense stocks like Lockheed Martin and, all of these other defense companies, ever since the beginning of the Afghanistan war in 2001 to 2021, their stock prices have jumped anywhere between 750 to 1,250% over the last 20 years. So this was very, very, very clearly an attempt to just make money. It was nothing more than that. Liberalism was just superficial, it was like painting on something. It was nothing more than that. But as such, you can't paint the ideology of an industrialized Western world on an unindustrialized, primitive Eastern, Afghan Pashtun society. It's not going to work. So ideologically, it was not going to work. And economically, socioeconomically, it was not going to work, because that was never the American aim in the first place.
But, one thing we have seen is that the manner in which the Western countries ran away from Afghanistan in a very disgraceful manner. They betrayed all their Afghan allies, the people who were working with them, especially these small Scandinavian countries of Europe who preach a lot to India about democracy, liberalism, human rights, and they're the one who sit and prepare index of democracy, and they give certificate India is no longer democracy and all. Their behavior, the way they ran away, did not even inform their staff, anyone. They just ran away, just like this. They even left, forget the people, they even left the dogs behind. That was very heartbreaking. That shows that you really don't value anyone, but you preach a lot about human rights, democracy, and whatnot. So does it show that the Western powers are in retreat? Is it kind of a redux of what happened to the Soviet Union? The defeat in Afghanistan showed or revealed the weakness or the hollowness of the communist order. Do you think we are going to see the same pattern repeated over here? I'm not saying defeat in Afghanistan caused the defeat or destruction of Soviet Union, or is going to cause the destruction of the Western liberal order, but it simply has exposed that it's very weak, very hollow at the core.
Exactly. So I don't think that, in the next 5 years, America is going to collapse, which, to be very honest, we could not say about the Soviet Union as well until it collapsed. So I don't think, like I said, you're also right. It's not going to collapse the way the entire Western world, the European Union is not going to stop existing. It's just going to show people that the credibility and the moral high ground, so-called moral high ground that is there existing in the West, it just is completely, it's nonsense. It doesn't exist. Now, if you look, for example, Chinese state media. Now, I follow China very much to understand what is going on. If you look at Chinese state media, they were openly saying that they are going to invade Taiwan the day America left Afghanistan. Very openly saying, you're not going to last very long. America is not credible on its commitments. So peacefully join us, or we are going to face a wrath. This was written in global times. So it's very clear that China understands that it has shifted away from the Deng Xiaoping era of laying low and just continuing to work. Now it is resurgent into a sort of Hegelian synthesis of Mao and Deng Xiaoping into the Xi Jinping era, which is the combination of reviving the greatness of the Chinese nation, along with growing the economy in a more socially oriented goal. So that's what's happening. And, China can see that, I'm not saying it's going to happen in the next 2 years, but around 2030 to 2035, Taiwan is most probably no longer going to exist. And that is going to be the Suez Canal moment for the American empire. Because the Suez Canal moment for the British Empire was when America intervened in favor of Egypt, along with the Soviet Union, against the British Empire and France, because they attacked Nasser, who nationalized the canal. So, even though America and Britain today are allies, and they were very strong allies, this sort of, clash of a rising power and a declining power is bound to happen. It is bound to happen no matter how close and how liberal democratic your both countries are. There is going to be that, minor or major clash that is going to happen, that is going to highlight the decline of one power and the rise of another. Now, this was, this Afghanistan is, in a sense, a precursor to that, but I think Taiwan is going to be the next place to watch out. But, when you mention, going back to your point about credibility of the liberal democratic order, obviously it is completely hollow. And a lot of people who need to understand this, some people are understanding this. I'm trying my level best on Twitter to show the hollowness of it. I've been doing it since day one. My entire, thing is that. But we are still plagued by a lot of think tankers who think that America is still, number one. We must follow the ideals of America. It's completely stupid. So the issue is that, America was trying to do nation building in Afghanistan, and they neglected their own nation. Now, if you look at videos from the streets of Philadelphia, you look at videos from streets of New York, it's all these, junkies and, poor, homeless people, crowding the streets. San Francisco is people are, they're pooping on the street. It's insane what America has become. And funnily enough, Philadelphia is where the United States was founded. So if the founding city of your entire empire is now full of homeless people, drug addicts, and, morally depraved place, it's what it's become. It's a perfect reflection of what is happening in America, because the elites are completely insulated from their own population. And, and they're saying, we must preach liberalism to everyone, because the thing is, liberalism has failed at home for them. Because it was the ideology of their elites, and it has no relation to the people anymore. Now the elites are just rent-seeking. That is all there is. There is no industrial base left in America. And it'll be very interesting to see what they do going on, because, to actually combat China, they have to bring back industrial jobs, which is very hard to do. because the market in China is much more lucrative than the market in America. Even Nike's CEO said that we are a Chinese company, which was the very big news in America a couple of months back. So, in that sense, liberal democracy is the decline of liberal democracy has begun. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in the future. But definitely, if anyone in India is watching this and, America is not the ideal we should be looking at. Because they don't even follow their very own ideals. So if we are trying to emulate, we are the real liberal democracy, it is just that we are mentally colonized to follow an ideology that the colonizer himself does not care about.
But, let's come to the behavior of the Western media. In the beginning, you see, India was the only country which started issuing a visa to the Afghan people. Irrespective of who they are. I mean, you were allowed to come to India if you can just fill the online visa and so on. But if you look at the coverage of the Western media, suddenly the problem was not Taliban. The problem was the Hindu nationalists sitting in Delhi who were discriminating between Muslims and non-Muslims in Afghanistan simply because India said that we will, work to bring back few thousand Hindus and Sikhs. I don't think even few thousands, few hundreds maybe, back to India on a priority basis. And if we read the liberal media at home, it was against going after CA and whatnot. What explains it? I mean, they were trying to deflect the entire thing on India. You see these articles, it's a humiliation of India, the Economist of Indian article. How on the earth the defeat in Afghanistan is a humiliation of India? I don't understand. So why do you think they're trying to do that? Both the liberal media at home and also abroad.
So definitely, I think there is distraction from their own failures because, obviously India did support the Afghan government, first of the Najibullah government under the Soviets, and that government collapsed. And we also did support the Hamid Karzai, Ashraf Ghani government, and that also did collapse. So, obviously, not to say that we were right, but we did place our bets on the wrong hand. That is a fact. But it was not our loss. We didn't lose anything. We still have our investments there. The issue is how do we, manage to make out a deal with the Taliban to ensure that those investments are safe in guarantee for them not interfering in Kashmir. It's a very difficult task. I don't know what is going to happen, but that is what I think the Ministry of External Affairs is working towards, is the safety of Kashmir and their investments in Afghanistan. So, to understand why the Western media is, trying to equate Taliban with, BJP or Hindu nationalism and so on, there are many reasons. Firstly, because the money minting operation of Afghanistan is more or less over. The defense contractors can't make money. The NGOs can't work in Afghanistan. Where do you find the place to expand your market? It is India, because China has banned NGOs. So India has not completely banned every NGO. It has banned amnesty. It has banned certain NGOs. It has not banned every NGO. Now that is obviously a weak spot for us, and they're trying to take advantage of this. But obviously the other reason is, if I compare it to the Trump era, where they tried to say that, Trump is fascist, Trump is Hitler, and so on. What it led to was the emergence of journalists as some sort of celebrity heroes who are fighting for the truth and so on. It led to their, sort of the increase of their appeal as, saviors of truth and celebrities. So that's what it basically is, for some certain, credentialed idiots in India, or living in Mumbai, perfectly reporting on Dalal Street or so on, and saying, oh, actually we are living under fascism. It is just a way to boost their profile by saying we are reporting truth from dangerous times and so on, which is obviously completely stupid. Like, can these people do these people have to wear a chunni or dupatta when they go outside on the streets of Mumbai? Are they forced to cover their heads with a veil or something? No, that doesn't exist. They're free to go wherever they want. It's a perfectly safe country. So it's just that. And obviously, like I said, it distract from the failures of their own government with regard to Afghanistan, manufacture consent for more color revolutions and all that kind of destabilization efforts to increase the power of NGOs, and to ensure that the journalists who are reporting from India have some sort of celebrity status of saviors of truth. That's basically what it is. Interesting.
And my last question to you will be about this bigoted conference being organized by certain humanities department in America on dismantling Hindu polity, which is named something like Dismantling Global Hindutva or whatnot, which is basically the gathering of all the anti-Hindu, extremely bigoted and racist people. At the time when Taliban is taking over Afghanistan, these people are going after Hindus. It doesn't make sense, right? What's happening in the Western academia when it comes to the non-Western countries, especially India?
So the best way I like to frame it is, if you ask someone in Western academia, would you support the right of indigenous people to decide their own future democratically and to revive their own culture and economy? If you ask this person to any white person in Western academia, they will say, yes, we have mistreated indigenous people in our country for so long and so on. But once you say, actually, the indigenous people I'm talking about are Hindus in India, suddenly they're like, no, this is fascism. And, it's obviously very, crazy double standards. But basically, this entire conference is a very shameful conference, to be very honest with you, because there is no evidence at all that the BJP, RSS, or any Hindu group is in any way, shape, or form as violent or nearly as extremist as the Taliban is in any way, shape, or form. So I completely disagree with that entire conference from day one. But what's very interesting to watch is the backing this conference has from basically almost every major American university. And these American universities are funded by American corporations who fund the social sciences department. It's like a very, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, self-fulfilling cycle. The American corporations fund Vogue departments. Vogue departments, bring and produce employees, conformist employees for corporations, who then continue to fund the Vogue department. It's a very self-fulfilling cycle. So in that sense, it's hilarious to see the amount of top Ivy League American universities and American corporations backing this. And what's even more surprising, and I saw this someone from Twitter, is the Harvard South Asian Center is backed by the Mahindra, the person who owns Mahindra. So it's also very surprising because, our own billionaires are, and our own elite are very, in that sense, they're simping for Western approval. They don't really see what their culture is. And, they're saying, if you give money to America, we will look good and so on. They don't care. They hate you. That's basically what it is. They hate you. If you're giving them money, you're basically helping them, continue their attacks on you. Now, I would actually take this opportunity to equate American universities with the Taliban, if you allow me. So would you, as an Indian government, give money to Taliban knowing that they hate you? You would not do that. Similarly, why would you, as an Indian billionaire or Indian government, give money to American universities? Your only solution, obviously, is to follow the China approach, which is, have Confucius departments, Confucius institutes, but have Chanakya institutes, and use that to actually propagate, what is the truth about India, what is the truth about Hindu culture, and so on. And obviously, if cancel culture and all of that stuff is rise on the West, we have to use that opportunity to actually cancel a lot of academia who are against Hindus. We have so many opportunities to do it. I personally don't like to, play that entire using wokeism against the woke game, but this is one strategy we can use in ensuring we can get those professors out of university, like Audrey Trushka and so on. So it's we have a lot of strategies to play, but in my sense, I don't think we should be exposing our economy to the very oligarchs who hate us, nor should we be funding, nor should our billionaires and government be funding the very universities that hate us. It's just very counterproductive. And the good path forward is the China way and, canceling the professors who hate us. So it's like, going back, it's a very stupid thing to equate the Taliban with the Hindu right wing or the Hindu wing in India. I wouldn't even say Hindu right wing, but the Hindu wing in India. It's a completely, especially in this particular timing when we are evacuating our own people, the Dharmic people of Afghanistan, and even, a lot of Muslim people from Afghanistan, to make this kind of statement is a very inhuman, depraved statement. It's just exposing their own agenda, their own corporate agenda, their own cultural agenda of what they want for India.
Interesting. I like that canceling the people who hate us, just like China. So, but thank you, Comrade Arora. It was a wonderful discussion as usual. I gather that you are very busy these days, but we are hoping to see you soon and more often on this channel and on these topics. But thanks a lot once again, and Jai Shri Ram.
Thank you so much. Yes, a lot of stuff going on, but I will try my level best to make it more often. But it was a wonderful conversation. And yeah, thank you so much, Abhinav, Lal Salam, and Jai Shri Ram.
Thank you. And thank you, audience, for listening to us. Please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and join as a member to support the channel. See you soon.